Today, a fragile pause, one measured in hours, promises and great risk. At noon, officials say a ceasefire came into effect after more than 2 years of sustained fighting in the Gaza Strip. For families long trapped in uncertainty, for armies still on alert, and for negotiators scrambling to turn a momentary calm into lasting relief, the next 72 hours will matter in ways that are both immediate and profound. This is a story of hostages and hope, of military lines and humanitarian corridors, of political pressure and painful compromises, and of people whose lives have been suspended, waiting, counting the minutes, wondering whether the promise of freedom will be kept. Israeli military spokespeople say their forces have repositioned along agreed deployment lines. In a press briefing, Effie Defrin of the Israel Defense Forces said the ceasefire triggered a 72-hour period during which our hostages will be released. Those are the words that now hang in the air. A concrete timeline, a promise with a deadline. What does a 72-hour window actually mean on the ground? For hostage families, it is a sliver of daylight after years of darkness. For soldiers and commanders, it is a test to verify, to monitor, and, crucially, to hold to account. For civilians in Gaza, it is an opportunity to seek safety and aid, but also a time of heightened danger whenever lines are misunderstood or agreements fray. Across the region, the optics matter. Every movement of troops, every convoy of humanitarian supplies, and every negotiated release will be photographed, recorded, and interpreted by governments, media outlets, and social networks. Each side will watch the other for signs of bad faith. That scrutiny raises the stakes and the pressure to act with care. The details of the agreement have not been fully released in public. What we do know is the outline: a ceasefire, agreed deployment lines, and a finite period for hostages to be freed. Behind that outline are days and nights of diplomatic shuttle work, envoys, intermediaries, and the quiet conversations that rarely make the headlines but shape outcomes. For Israel, the release of hostages carries political as well as human weight. Leaders will face intense scrutiny over any trade-offs, which prisoners are exchanged, whether militants are released, and how to ensure future security. The military acknowledges the risks. As Effie Defrin put it, the country is paying a heavy price, but it is for the noble goal of returning our hostages. Those words capture the bitter arithmetic of negotiation, lives for liberty, and the chance that some freed individuals may again embrace violence. For Hamas and other Palestinian factions, agreeing to a timeline may be influenced by battlefield pressure, internal politics, and the urgent needs of civilians. Securing concessions, whether for prisoner transfers, aid corridors, or infrastructural relief, is often part of such deals. But trust is slim. Past truces have frayed, commitments have been broken, and any successful release will rest on fragile mechanisms, monitors, third-party guarantees, and likely international oversight. Humanitarian agencies will also be judged by their ability to move supplies and staff into the areas most in need. Ceasefires unquestionably open windows for care, food, water, medicine, shelter, but logistics remain fraught. Roads scarred by conflict, the flow of fuel, and the coordination between multiple actors are all bottlenecks that can turn promise into disappointment. As this window opens, the human stories are what anchor us. Close your eyes and imagine a family home where a chair sits empty, photographs gather dust, and every creak of the night is a memory. For them, the 72-hour clock is not an abstract diplomatic measure. It is a heartbeat, slow and uncertain. For the hundreds, if not thousands, of civilians whose lives have been directly affected by this conflict, safety will take time to rebuild. For those who have escaped, the relief will be immediate. For those whose loved ones remain in captivity, time will stretch as they wait for the first sign of return. We should be clear: ceasefires do not erase the past. They can create breathing space, but they do not resolve the deep political disputes that underlie the violence. 2 years of fighting have left scars, physical, economic, and psychological, that will not simply vanish when guns fall silent. Rebuilding will require political will, international support, and an acceptance that security and humanitarian policy must go hand in hand. A successful hostage release, if it unfolds as described, will be an undeniable human victory, but it will also pose difficult questions. How will released hostages be cared for? What medical and psychological support will be available? Who will be able to reunite them with families and under what conditions? And perhaps most importantly, what assurances exist to prevent a rapid return to hostilities? The next 72 hours are also a test of international diplomacy. Which countries or organizations will play the role of mediator or guarantor? Which will provide observers or aid? History tells us that third-party involvement often proves decisive, whether through the United Nations, regional actors, or independent humanitarian organizations. Their presence can build confidence and provide transparency. For the wider world, this pause should prompt reflection about the limits of military solutions and the necessity of long-term political frameworks. Short windows like this one can offer precious relief and open doors to negotiation, but they cannot substitute for comprehensive strategies aimed at sustainable peace. As journalists, our duty is to follow the facts closely and to bring the human dimension into view. We will report on the releases as they happen, verify claims, and hold all parties to account. We will speak with families, with commanders, with negotiators, and with humanitarian workers who will be on the front lines of implementation. We will examine the mechanics. How are hostages identified, transported, and handed over? What monitoring mechanisms are in place? What red lines remain? Today's announcement is a moment of guarded hope. It is not a resolution. It is instead a narrow corridor in which relief may be delivered, a chance that must be handled with precision and care. In the hours ahead, expect a mixture of joy and caution. Expect families to brace for reunions and, for some, to be let down. Expect scrutiny, both political and military. Expect aid convoys to move, at least in part, into contested areas. Expect announcements from international actors offering to help monitor and verify the process. Above all, remember the human stakes. Behind each headline are people who have been held, waiting, often for years. Behind each diplomatic cable are individuals whose advocacy, grief, and persistence brought negotiations to this point. If even a portion of the hostages are freed during this 72-hour window, those returns will mean more than political calculations. They will mean restored lives and healed families. So we watch, we verify, and we report. The coming 3 days will be measured minute by minute. They will be a test not just of military discipline or diplomatic skill, but of basic human decency, the willingness of parties to put lives ahead of slogans and to choose, however briefly, the fragile path toward peace. This is our coverage. We will bring you updates as the releases begin, as aid convoys move, and as the 72-hour window opens, narrows, and, we must hope, delivers on its promise. For now, the promise is set in motion. The outcome depends on actions, faith, and the hard work of those committed to making terms hold.
היום בשעה 12 בצהריים נכנסה לתוקפה הפסקת אש לאחר שנתיים של לחימה ברצועת עזה. עם התייצבות כוחותינו על קווי הערכות שסוכמו, החלו 72 השעות במהלכן יושבו חטופינו. אני קורא מכאן לתושבי עזה, הימנעו מלהגיע לשטח בשליטת צה"ל, שמרו על ההסכם והבטיחו את ביטחונכם. קו הערכות כוחותינו הוא קו הגנה קדמי. צה"ל יגן על אזרחינו ועל מדינתנו מול כל איום. לגמרי. צה"ל ערוך בעומק הרצועה, הקו הצהוב שראית שהצגנו קודם הוא קו עמוק בתוך שטח הרצועה. אנחנו ערוכים להגנה על אזרחי מדינת ישראל בכל מקום ומכל מקום. בכל הזירות דרך אגב, לא רק מעזה. אנחנו כרגע ערוכים חזק ברצועת עזה ובקווי ההגנה שהגדרנו, ואנחנו כמובן נבצע הערכת מצב בהתאם לגבי שחרור מילואים ושחרור כוחות. כרגע זה לא המצב, אנחנו ערוכים חזק, הכל בהתאם להערכת המצב, עוד מוקדם לומר. אנחנו משלמים מחירים כבדים, אבל עבור מטרה נעלה של השבת החטופים שלנו כולם. ואנחנו, צה"ל הוא חזק, וצה"ל ידע להגן על מדינת ישראל בכל הגזרות ובכל הזירות. ואנחנו מודעים למחיר הזה ולאכזריות של המחבלים חלקם שישוחררו. אלו המחירים שאנחנו משלמים, ומי מהם שישוב לטרור ישלם את המחיר.